Hello everyone, my name's Francis. Anybody who doesn't know what this is, it's called natural rhythm.
Francis Dunnery is almost known as a musician. But he does not play on stages around the world, he plays in living rooms around the world.
You know what I mean?
He plays songs with good stories about his life, and he talks about the way things are in a psychological and philosophical way. Francis has been in Darmstadt, and we asked him about his album Tall Blonde Helicopter, the Seth books, astrology, psychology, football, and at first about the difference between halls and living rooms.
You haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, right?
I wanna be someone who loves you. I wanna be someone who cares. I wanna wrap my arms around you because I care. Because I can.
Well, I think the main difference is, as an artist, is being heard. You know, that's one of the main differences between being in a concert hall or being in a club or being, on stage in front of 20,000 people. Actually having, 30 people, 30 to 50 people in front of you, you really feel like you've been heard, and that's invaluable for an artist because and because I can get to tell the stories of the songs before I sing them. I know that everybody in the room knows exactly what I'm singing about, and that's probably the greatest gift that any artist can have, to understand the full, meaning behind what they're singing about. So when you do a concert on this, in a big venue, it's a different thing. It's not any better or worse, really. I don't think it's just different. It's just a different thing. It's like trying to say, what's the best? A rose or some water. You can't really differentiate. Which that isn't the best. It's just different.
I always believed that if I ran off to India, wore sandals and shaved my head, and used Body Shop conditioner, burn incense like crazy, I could call myself a spirit head. But I only went to India to look on top. I wore sandals.
Well, Tall Blonde Helicopter has always been a favourite CD of a lot of people around the planet who follow my career. I don't know why. I think it was a very creative CD, but I don't know why people gravitated to that one. And I just, a lot of people were talking about it, and there was some really, really good stories behind the Tall Blonde Helicopter CD. And one of the things about doing house concerts is you can't show up at somebody's house with a big ego expecting them to treat you like a rock star. That's not what they're about. You go there to facilitate an evening where everybody gets together in the room. So Tall Blonde, you need good stories in order to have a successful house concert, in my opinion. And Tall Blonde Helicopter had some great stories behind it, like where the songs come from, because it was such a difficult time of my life when I was recording it. So I think that's the main reason why I chose Tall Blonde Helicopter. It seemed like a natural follow-on from the first house concert show that I did, which was called The Midlife Crisis, which was a very intense psychological show.
And if we're grateful and we're thankful, then we're spiritual. If we're hiding, we're denying all the love inside. So don't let your spirit die. Lay down your arms and we'll walk together into the light.
Well, the Seth books were originally written in the 70s by a lady called Jane Roberts. And she was a medium, she was like a clairvoyant, and she would channel this, she would go into a trance and say all this stuff, and they made books out of it. And it's like, one of the things, everyone laughed at her when she was saying this stuff back then. They said she was crazy and, but it's interesting now how the books are being revisited by scientists in America who've actually found out that a lot of the things that she said were actually true. They've found out it's true. And a lot of the things about dimensions of reality, there's a whole thing that exploded in quantum physics over the last few years about the 11 dimensions of reality. They found different dimensions of reality. We've got up, down, back and forward. There's all these different dimensions. And she was talking about that, in the 70s. And so the Seth books, if you read any book over the last 25, 30 years, you will not find anything as detailed, as provocative, as progressive, and as enlightening as the Seth books. You just won't, no matter who it is, from, and I read everybody from Carl Jung to Liz Green to, everybody, Freud, Adler, nobody is addressing the human condition and beyond the human condition like Jane Roberts. She wasn't afraid of anything. She addressed some incredibly difficult questions about the afterlife, about where our energy goes, about molecular structures, about where molecules go, about how things works, about how, the whole thing that she tackled hadn't been tackled by anybody, really. A few philosophers had tried to touch on it, but they hadn't said it in a way that, that the 20th century could understand. And so I think the Seth books, still to this day, and I'm fond of a lot of different philosophers and people, who can bring enlightenment to life. But probably Jane Roberts, I think if you look behind it, nobody has done it like that. Still haven't to this day. It's just if anybody's out there, there's a book called The Nature of Personal Reality, which I think is just tremendous work. All of her books are tremendous. All of them are. But I think I'll go down in history. Standing up for those books, they're timeless. And you can read them anytime. They're as alive today as they were in the 70s. It's brilliant stuff.
The people die so we can understand. I still don't know if I'm for sure, but I hold the faith that what I feel is right.
I might like to work as a psychologist, but I'm more, I'm more interested in doing, because I already work as a counsellor now, as an astrological counsellor, so I don't really have any yearnings to do it for that reason. But what I would like to do is I find in the psychological world, in society, present day psychological world, I truly believe there's a lot of things they don't have right. I believe a lot of their models are outdated, and I believe that, we need to have a new reality now form in the psychological world. We truly do, because the human condition, we've come as far as we can with the present rules and regulations and the way they see life. But over these next 10 or 20 years, we're going to, I think the whole of humanity, especially over here in the West, is going to become more aware. And I don't think that the present day psychology will allow us to do that, because it's too narrow-minded. Like, they don't, they're addressing things only what you can see with the naked eye. And that's not what's going on behind human life. There's things going on behind human life that you can't see in a microscope. You just can't. So because you can't see it in a microscope, they say it doesn't exist. And so I think that what I want to do, the reason why I study psychology, or I'll get my doctorate, is so I can argue those points. Because now, just as some guy off the street, I can't argue with them. Because they just say, well, have you got a psychology degree? And I go, well, no. And they say, well, go away, you little man, So I think it's not so much that I want to practice being a psychologist. It's more that I would like to argue and debate the points with the people who are so hell-bent on saying they have all the answers. You know, there's a great, there's a great quote by Jalaluddin Rumi, and I don't know whether this will translate in German. I don't know. I'll try. But he talks about every generation think they know it all. You know, back 300 years ago, you know, they thought they knew the truth so much that if you didn't agree with their version of the truth, they would burn you at the stake. You know, everything was based on the truth, their truth. It was so important that you could not disagree with it, even slightly, otherwise it was enough to kill you. They thought that their truth was so important that they would kill you for it. It was that important. And of course, looking back from this generation now, we can see that they were absolutely stark raving mad. And they were like, it was almost like the first Monty Pythons. You know what I mean? They were so insane, you know, they were insane. They were absolutely insane, but they thought that their truth back then was fantastic.
When I came out my mother's womb, they put a sticker on my head that said, Roman Catholic white trash piece of garbage isn't going anywhere. I believed them for a while, but I started getting all these anti-messages from my psyche. This is a message to all the youth of 1998. Give up your day job and follow the grief trail home. Follow the grief trail home.
So I think it would be very arrogant of us to sit here and think we know everything. And Rumi likened, Jalaluddin Rumi, the poet, he likened the knowledge of the universe to the ocean. He said the vastness of the ocean is very similar to the vastness of the psyche. And he said, you are the diver's clothes lying empty on the beach. He said, you're not even the diver. You can't even go into the water. You're just the diver's clothes. And he said, every so often, you may get a little smell of salt breeze, and that's about as much as you know about the ocean. You know, and I think, you know, like you are the diver's clothes, and I kind of feel like that. You know, I think we have to agree upon a world truth because we haven't evolved to the point where we can be, you know, Zen masters or every, you know. So we have to agree on the world truth, which might not be the truth, but it might be a workable truth for the times. I think the workable truth for the past has now outgrown itself, and we need a new truth.
Give me one kind of nation. Give me one kind of world. Give me one summer vacation. Give me one a sweet little girl. 'Cause there's a fire keeps on burning.
Well, the first thing that got me into astrology was the fact that Carl Jung was an astrologer. And Carl Jung is one of the most famous psychologists that the world's ever created. And he was heavily into astrology. And I think it's true to say that, you know, people ask about the planets in the sky, and you know, I don't think it's any, you know, it has anything to do with that. I think it's the meaning behind what happens to us that's important. I mean, you can debate whether the planet Saturn in the sky sends off magnetic energy or whether we're just making it up, but it actually doesn't matter. What matters is the meaning that we draw from things. The currency of life is meaning. And all these systems from like Christianity or Buddhism or astrology or psychology, they're all just ways to draw meaning from life. And we all know that life has no meaning. There's no, you know, it has no meaning. We have to bring the meaning to it. You know, so astrology is a way for me to bring meaning to my life. Just in the same way that psychology would be, or, you know, it's all just it's all just about the meaning of life. It doesn't. I don't care. You know, I don't care if the planet Saturn is at a certain degree at a certain time, and you know, it doesn't really matter to me. What I do know is when I look at someone's chart, it seems to correlate with their psychology. Now, why, I don't know, and I don't need to know why, because I could probably never find out why. I remember talking to my old maths tutor. He was a guy from Barbados, and his family were very rich. They were called the Fords, and they basically owned Barbados. And he was a very rebellious guy. So his family, they wanted him just to work in Barbados and own the land, and he didn't want to do that. So he went to America and he became a math teacher. And he was quite brilliant. He was a brilliant man. And they were trying to get him, because he was a black guy, all the white people were trying to get him into their, mathematical, they have these little groups like clubs, like, you come to our philosophy club. You know, it's like one of those sort of things. They wanted him in there because, he was, I guess it made them pretty hip or something. I don't know, having the only black guy in their club. And he was quite aware of that. You know, he said they wanted me in the club because I was a black guy. You know, he was very smart. He was very smart. But he would talk about Jesus. And he went on about Jesus, and Jesus is this, and Jesus is that. And they said, they said, why are you talking about Jesus? Why are you talking about Jesus? Because the things they were talking about were philosophically more superior to anything. They were talking about quantum physics, they were talking about the meaning of life, they were talking about all these really, really intense things. And he said something very interesting. He said, the questions that they're asking can never be answered. They're too broad. You cannot answer those questions. It is impossible. And he said, so I know that there's something outside of Jesus. I know that there's other things out there. He said, but in this lifetime, I'm not evolved enough to answer them. So I need something which I can draw meaning from life. And so I make myself a little fence and I talk about Jesus, and I can draw it. I don't need to look outside of that right now because I can't answer those questions. And it helps me feel satisfied and fulfilled, even though I know there's something outside of it. Jesus does it. I draw my meaning from Jesus. And so astrology is like that to me. It's like, I know there's other things. I know there's all these questions, and I know there's smart people who can say, yes, 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 but it's got nothing to do with this, and we've scientifically proved that this is wrong and blah. But you can't tell me that that it's not accurate for me, because I know in my 15 years experience of doing it, it's quite remarkable the meaning that I can draw from somebody's birth chart. And I don't need to answer the other questions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's wrong, then it's wrong in a good way, because it's phenomenal information that I can pull from it. Yes, I'd like to write a song about football. Although I don't know, I did write one for the Rangers fan club, and it was called When I Look for Different Colours in Your Eyes, There's Only Blue. That's what it was. But I see, the problem is I wanted to write it for the Celtic stuff. That's why I never released it, because I can't sing about Rangers because I'm a Celtic fan. So if I could sing, if I look for different colours in your eyes, there's only green and white, they'll probably think you've turned into like a zombie or something. So I can't really sing that. But I would like to write a song about football. I'm a huge football fan. I love it. I could watch football, as my girlfriend will tell you, from 7 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning. I could just sit and have it on and watch a match after match. When the European Championships come, Erica is going to be not very pleased. because it will be on 24/7. It's one of my favourite things, and it's how I let my mind rest. When I'm watching football, I'm resting. I can get involved in the world to a point where it's just all that nonsense, ego stuff and separation. And I'm for Germany, and I like to do that. I also think it's very healthy to go down to a soccer match and swear at the other side for 90 minutes a week. I think it's a good offload for your psychology. Yeah. To go down and be a full bigot just for 90 minutes. 90-minute bigotry, I love that. I think it's very healthy. And I think if we don't do it, then we'll probably bring it home. We do need an outlet for our aggression, whether we like it or not, and not all of us can run marathons or, do karate. So I think that was a good working class way of unleashing a whole bunch of aggression, to go down to a soccer pitch at, Darmstadt and shout, you bastard, at the referee.
I believed in Mahatma Gandhi when non-violence was his faith. I believed in Martin Luther when he said, I have a dream.
I do a lot of producing. I mean, I just like to stay active. I like to do different things. I don't really define myself as anything, which is, I found, it's a bit disturbing at first, because it's kind of scary to say, well, I'm not a musician. People say, well, what are you then? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I am. But I'm active in the world. I'm definitely active. But do I define myself as a musician? No. Do I find myself as an astrologer? No. Do I define myself as a producer? No. They're all just things I do. Who I am is behind that. So when I don't identify with the things I do, then it's almost like being an octopus, and you're the centre of the octopus, like you're not one of the tentacles. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say, for instance, one of the tentacles is astrology, one of the tentacles is, psychology, one of the tentacles is a musician, and so on. I'm not the tentacles. I'm the centre of the octopus, so it's me doing all those things as opposed to I am those things. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it allows me to do things like skiing, picnics. Do you know what I mean? I can sing for kids in children's school. I don't have to be, a rock guy and smash hotel rooms up and stuff. It gives me the freedom to just express myself. I like to cook. I love to cook. I cook dinner for us every night at home. I love to do that. Loads of things, just tons. It was one of the main reasons that I used to have difficulty in being in the band It Bites, because some of the guys in the band were, they like to smoke pot and just sit around. It wasn't like they'd smoke pot and do things. They just used to smoke pot and just sit around and do absolutely nothing for weeks on end. And it drove me crazy because I couldn't do anything without them because I was in a band. So their life was just incredibly slow, and they loved it that way. I'm not saying they're wrong. They liked it that way, but for me it was very difficult. So by doing all the things that I do, I keep myself happy, I think. It makes me happy to do all these things. So, but whatever I'm going to do next, I don't know. One of the things they talked about is putting the Midlife Crisis show on Broadway. Or off Broadway. Sorry, not on Broadway. Off Broadway.
Yeah.
And doing the Edinburgh Festival, maybe things like that. Or maybe write a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll, I don't know. I just don't feel limited right now. And I'm 45 years old, so I've got about, I would say, 30 years left of being able to keep up the pace that I'm doing now, because I have a pretty hectic pace. And after that, then I'm just going to retire, and Erica's going to take care of me. I'm going to sit on a chair and watch soccer all day. I'm going to get those type of, them glasses that you put on, those video glasses. I'm going to get video glasses, and they're going to pipe in every soccer match that ever was, and I'll just sit and die.